A low, throaty chuckle echoed through the woods, sinister and sharp. Erin froze, eyes widening. It wasn't laughter meant to share joy, but a cruel sound, dripping with malice. It slithered through the trees like a snake, chilling the back of his neck and sinking deep into his chest. He stayed crouched, pulse pounding in his ears, every muscle taut as danger roared to life. That had been a witch's cackle, unmistakable once you heard such. Slowly he stood, abandoning the hunt for the blue rose. Farah hadn't been gone long. The thought of that chuckle belonging to a witch sent cold dread coursing through him. The sound came from the direction of the village, the same way his daughter had gone moments before. Erin ran toward the chuckling, towards the sound of the witch he was now certain lurked ahead.
Malvaris' thin fingers manipulated the shard with deliberate cruelty, her lips curling into a faint, cruel smile. She channeled its magic slowly, letting the pain creep up the girl's spine like an icy serpent. It started as a dull pressure at the base, subtle enough to tease, before building gradually. Malvaris took her time, savouring the slow escalation, each shift of the shard drawing the pain higher, tightening like a vice. The quadling's freckled face glistened with sweat, her wide eyes darting frantically, the only part of her body able to respond under the binding spell. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and her lips trembled, though she could not move, could not scream. The only sound was the faint hum of the shard and the soft drip of sweat falling from her chin to the dirt below. Malvaris allowed the magic to climb further, twisting at each vertebra, building the pain methodically. This was no quick punishment. It was a mirror of her own torment. She thought of the rot festering inside her, how it had begun as an ache she dismissed before growing into something that consumed her every moment. This pain, drawn out and deliberate, reflected that same inevitability. It was fitting. Another flick of her fingers sent a sharp jolt upward, and the girl's sweat-slick face contorted in silent agony. Malvaris watched with a mix of satisfaction and bitterness, her mind lingering on the thought that the shard could twist bones, but not recreate the rot's relentless gnawing at her gut. If only she could make the girl feel that kind of pain. A hollow, endless agony with no relief. But this would have to do. So far, Malvaris had caused the girl no real damage, only relentless escalating pain. But now, the shard's magic hovered at the base of the girl's spine, and Malvaris was ready to break it. One flick, and her ability to walk, stolen, forever. It was the perfect reflection of what awaited Malvaris herself, if the slippers remained out of reach. A future of weakness, of ruin. Beside her, Verena chuckled, a deep, cruel sound that reverberated in the blood-tinged air. I had forgotten how good you are with the shard. Then chaos erupted. A blur burst from the underbrush, slamming into Malvaris with bone-jarring force and knocking her to the ground. Pain flared as her shoulder struck the earth, the shard of obedience flying from her grasp and skittering into the dirt. Dazed, she caught glimpses of her attacker, a quadling of all things, small fists hammering with maddening determination. The force of the attack sent Verena sprawling as well, her furious curses slicing through the chaos as they tangled in the quadling's relentless assault. His voice rang out, sharp and forceful, cutting through the chaos. "Get up and run, girl, now!" The freckled girl stumbled to her feet, trembling with the effort, before breaking into a desperate, uneven run into the thick, tall bushes. Snarling, Malvaris drew her dagger and struck. The quadling man's resistance faltered as the blade pierced his heart. He let out a wet gurgle before falling still. Malvaris shoved his lifeless body aside, straightened, and yanked the dagger from his chest, leaving red blooming across the fabric of his shirt. Verena was already on her feet, her wand drawn. "There!" she said, pointing into the underbrush where the girl had vanished. She took off after her, forcing Malvaris to follow. Branches clawed at Malvaris's cloak as she pushed through the dense, tangled foliage, her stomach clenching with each jarring step. Ahead, Verena moved with unsettling ease, for a woman of her size and bulk. The girl's fiery hair flickered briefly in the distance before disappearing completely into the thicket. Malvaris stumbled to a halt, doubling over slightly as the dull ache in her gut surged into sharp, twisting pain. Verena whirled back, her expression a mix of frustration and eagerness. "She's close. I can still smell her," she hissed. "If we move quickly, we can track her before she gets too far." Malvaris straightened, forcing her face into an impassive mask. "No," she said sharply, brushing debris from her cloak. "Tracking her through that tangle would be a waste of time." "What are you talking about?" Verena snapped, her fingers twitching with the urge to press forward. "She could warn the village." "She won't," Malvaris said, though the thought of pushing further through the dense vines, while tired and in pain, made her stomach turn. "She's running blind, no sense of direction. Did you see her? She's not even heading toward the village." She folded her arms casually, keeping her voice measured. "By the time she regains her wits, it'll be too late. She's no threat." "And if you're wrong?" Verena pressed, her voice sharp with skepticism. "I'm not," Malvaris snapped, though the truth gnawed at her like the rot in her gut. The girl was a loose thread, but the thought of pressing on through the thick underbrush, dodging the grasping limbs of the fighting trees, while her stomach twisted in agony, was unbearable. She straightened with deliberate ease, concealing her weariness from her sister. If Verena caught even a hint of the toll this chase had taken, she would exploit it without hesitation, turn it into leverage, a weapon against her. The rot was hers to bear, a secret she would guard fiercely. "You said Dorothy is close. We'll have her in the slippers before that quadling comes to her senses." Malvaris scowled, not at her sister, but at the feeling that she had made a grave mistake.